So what I've done is I've put together a hierarchy of safety needs. For those of you who remember your freshman psychology, this is Maslow's hierarchy repurposed into autonomous vehicle safety. So I'm calling it a hierarchy on purpose. I'm building it the same way, and the meaning is kind of the same. So down at the bottom, we have basic driving functionality. If the AV cannot drive down the road without hitting something, that autonomous vehicle is going to have a problem. That's sort of table stakes, okay? But you also want defensive driving. It has to drive in a way that doesn't get it into high-risk situations in the first place to get that level of human safety that more mature human drivers are at. Now, the thing about this pyramid is you're not on any one level. As you add levels, you have to do all the ones below or you fall down to a lower level. So by the time we're done, you have to do everything here, not just one thing. You need to do hazard analysis. That's the initial building block of safety engineering. Figure out what can go wrong, figure out ways to mitigate the hazard. You have to do functional safety, ISO 26262, which deals with, and I'll be very loose here and say, internal faults. There are problems inside the system, and functional safety explains to you how to deal with those in a safe way. But there's also safety of the intended function, and I'll be really loose here and say that has more to do with faults in the requirements and faults in the external world and faults in your sensors aren't going to be perfect. You're going to lose the occasional radar pulse coming back and things like this. You also need to do that. You also need to do system safety. There's things other than driving safety. Driving's part of it, but there's also securing the cargo and making sure the passengers are in the right position. There's a bunch of other things that have to do with the system and its context and how it interacts with other road users, post-crash response, all sorts of things. And ANSI UL 4600 takes that broader view and includes those on top of everything else. There's social technical issues, stakeholder expectations, all those questions about what did you mean by safe? You have to answer all those questions. All those things have to be addressed. And at the top is a just culture for safety culture. Now you might ask, gee, shouldn't you be doing just culture at the beginning? And so this is not a model of how to do it. I would say you have to start with a good safety culture. This is more a model of how I see companies building up from the bottom up. First, they try and get it to drive, then they get it to drive better, and then they add safety. So this is kind of a how companies behave kind of hierarchy as opposed to an ideal. But eventually, all these things have to happen. And until you get the entire pyramid handled, you're not really ready to deploy in a safe way. Security also matters. Security has its own pyramid that sort of shows up in the middle levels there. And this talk is not about security, but don't forget security. That will have to happen as well. If you have a system that is insecure and people can corrupt the software images, that's going to lead to safety problems as well.